I do not know the word statistics, but is there any performance review of the CSR initiatives in the world? That means from the global perspective or from the UN perspective, do you think the cigarette produced in the world, they are less than what they were produced in 1970? Or the alcohol produced in the world is less than the alcohol produced in 1970? Or the guns produced, which is the most socially irresponsible thing, is the guns produced which are causing so many wars and here, are they any less? Which basically, this is my question, is there any performance review of globally what is happening? Second is this some people, some people, they say that they are doing CSR, but is it a lip service or they really mean it? Like for example, you mentioned Mr. Narayan Murthy, that instead of cleaning the office, they engage the villagers. Now, is it CSR or is it a pure economics? Because the villagers charge less, they are actually saving money. Infosys with a turnover of 4,000 crore, how many villages did they benefit? This question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. J. Good. I didn't paint a rosy picture. All I said is that there seems to be a trend. In other words, there is an inflection. The moment you find an inflection in your curve is a good thing. So whether the inflection can be taken up on its own trajectory, statistically speaking, is the challenge in front of us, and that's the title of my topic. But I think more people are seeing that kind of trend and more engagement. I think all these budding people, they go out imbued with these kind of things, and probably they will become advocates of the same message. So we are all in the same war path without guns. The second one is there any statistics available? No need to go for statistics. There are more cigarettes produced yesterday, there are more cigarettes produced today than yesterday. And tomorrow there will be more cigarettes produced. Same will go for alcohol. Same will go for pornography. Same will go for anything. So that's not the issue and focus, because to bring it down, there is the bigger war. There is a bigger war. I'm not sure whether I'm qualified to talk about the bigger war. But the countering influences are now in place. The voices of the moderates, the NGOs, and also the civil society action groups and so on. Previously, without such voices, you'll find that now, for example, in the TPPA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, the big issue is the tobacco issue. So now we'll find that Malaysia is backtracking on that. So that, I think, is, even we ask for it, the statistics, I don't think so. The vicious forces which are sometimes bigger than the government forces, those forces which are in the cigarette, those forces which are in the alcohol, those forces which are in the pornography, those forces which are in gambling, they are bigger forces than the government. And sometimes government also succumb to their influence and so on. So, but by and large, we have got the counterbalancing forces at work. And this is the good thing that is happening. And hopefully, we'll find we are attaining some benefit into that area. Any other questions? All the time we were looking at my right and your left, and any from the left side, my left.
I have a question. Social responsibility arrives, the core is the human mind. So without considering about what is ethical, in some cases ethical problem in one society may be not ethical in another context. So in some cases, if we do not focus on to develop that core of the human, so what we are trying to invest in the business in action. In some cases, for example, in some cases now we say that producing gun is not ethical, or that is not CSR. But in some cases, same gun may be important in order to protect the human life. So in that case, as a complex system, what will happen to the entire society? So what will happen as a, so CSR may keep the entire society in a track. So at the same time, what will happen? In order to invest, there should be some motivation. So each and every government has set of rules how to follow the businesses. So following that rules may give some motivation. So in that case, what will happen to the entire society? So without concern, without investing on human mind, so thinking about the business level, so what will happen?
What is your name?
Manoj.
Manoj. From?
Sri Lanka.
Oh, Sri Lanka. Okay, because sometimes you can see there is a cultural load to the question. Because nothing can be very universal. It has got its own perspective. I think you have got a very, very good point in the sense that if the person has no responsibility in his own personal life, for him to translate that in the responsibility situation in the university or in the family or in the business is not going to be there. So it must start from the individual. This is where responsibility begins, and then within what sphere the responsibility is interpreted. We are saying that the responsibility sphere should be wide enough to encompass the three areas that we talked about: society, governance, and also the environment. Now, we are not saying that this is ethics from only one ethnic point of view or one cultural point of view or one linguistic point of view. There is right across the board, you will find that there are universal values. If you distill the universal values, like pay your worker on time, pay the worker full time, make your balance not skewed. In other words, don't cheat in your weight and measures. Give value for the measure that you have received. And then when you do something, you take care of the importance of the customer and continue with the customer. Let me just tell you for your listening a small story from the book that we translated. You all would have heard about Konosuke Matsushita. I'm sure some of you are using Aircon is Panasonic. National Panasonic, Konosuke Matsushita. We translated his book called Not for Bread Alone. He wrote a book, 4 books. The book is entitled Not for Bread Alone. A poor farmer's son from a faraway place in Japan becomes one of the top 10 industrialists in the world. It's a miracle. So he writes in that book one episode. That episode is like this. In that village, there was a cake shop. And people love that cake. For some reason, the cake is very tasty. Everybody will come and buy the cake. It's a famous cake store. So one day, a beggar came on the way and he came to the entrance of the shop. When this beggar came to the entrance of the shop, all the salesmen, they wanted to chase him away. What is this beggar coming and making our workplace, our cake shop looks a bit funny. But the boss, seeing that beggar, he came forward, please come into the shop, what do you want? He asked him. And then he bought one cake and then he went off. So the workers all were very puzzled. They said, ask the boss. He said, he's a beggar. Why do you give him so much importance? So he said, you see, all those people in the luxury cars and all that will come and buy our cake. To them it is nothing. This man, I do not know how much he earns. Maybe it's one whole day's earnings that he wants to buy this cake. That means he's valuing our product very well. So to me, he's king. So we gave him that. So the value in that boss That's the value. You take care of the customer, irrespective of his dress, irrespective of his ability to buy your products and so on, you serve him. So without the individual value, you are nobody. And your firm is not going to be of any firm. And your sustainability issue becomes questionable. I think that is the moral of the story. Are we all right with time?
Yeah. Maybe another 2 questions.
2 questions, all right? Maybe there will be a chocolate bar given to the next 2 questioners. Question time is not sustainable. Yes, please.
You mentioned the role of government. What role does government have? To a large extent, this is something driven by companies' own need to change because these environmental issues are real. And as we heard, even for companies which are making investments, they cannot protect the investments unless they worry about the environment. Because they lose investment. So, do governments need to get tougher on these ideas, or they allow it to be completely driven by the industry in trying to move towards this socially responsible investments? Is there a bigger role for the government, or should governments let the industry move on, let the private sector or the investors take a bigger role? Where is this balance between government and investors?
Good question. Good comment. You find that government in Malaysia, we can say, and governments in many of the emerging countries or developing countries have no clue from the government's perspective on these notions. Because to them, CSR is the Western notion that comes in. And when the CSR comes in to impact the developing countries, somehow it is clamoring on the issues which are very, very touchy for the emerging countries. For example, don't cut your trees. If you don't cut your trees, where is your income for your country? If your timber industry, there are some countries and some states depend largely on timber. So it becomes very sensitive kind of a thing. But the crux of this matter is, as far as Malaysia is concerned, Malaysia introduced a couple of years ago the CSR criteria because it thought it's good, make them aware. So they forced the people to write a CSR disclosure in their annual report, and then they also have to itemize where they have put in. And suddenly they find things are not as bright as what it should be. A lot of PR and other. So in the last budget, you will find that Prime Minister announced on this ESG. In other words, government also is beginning to see that not CSR, in order to make a real impact, the ESG should be brought in on a stronger basis. So it may. And of course, the first thing is to ask the GLCs to be the first proponents of the ESG or SRI. So somehow it will creep into, and then maybe some budget incentives would be given to expenditures that are put for CSR in other words, you can have a prescription, CSR for this and that and so on. So to me, it is still in a very beginning stage. We have to go a long way in that. So last question. Yes, please.
So I'm the one representing the Adjunct University of Sri Lanka. So we came here for an industrial issue. Actually, this is not a question. This is my opinion about this CSR and SRI thing. If you take multinational companies, and all the multinational companies, so they have very nice CSR projects. But if we analyze the context in countries like Sri Lanka, they are doing a lot of damage to our
especially human beings. To take Sri Lanka or other university located in Anuradhapura district, there are a lot of people suffering from kidney issues due to arsenic. They use fertilizer to cultivate, so those arsenic contaminated with the water, they consume water, and there are a lot of people suffering from kidney issues. It's a menace in Sri Lanka. So all these companies, they have doing a lot of presentation, doing a lot of media activities, but they are doing a lot of damage. So as a veteran, so how do you think about it? And you said that this is it's like counter-attack thing, but how do you, I don't know countries in Malaysia and other countries, but countries like ours, so a lot of innocent people are suffering a lot. So what is your opinion about this?
There can be no opinion about it. It's straightforward exploitation. I think the word that I use, the MNCs came. The MNC entry today, it is not in the same mode as it was about 20, 30 years ago. There's a lot of restrictions have come in, both introduced by the MNEs themselves, as well as local governmental rules. I do not know about the thing, but it's a serious one. If water is polluted by arsenic and that is being consumed, then you have got a very serious issues. But today, in most of the developing countries, you'll find that foreign direct investment is the attraction. Please come. You can do what you like, but as long as you put your money here, it will be quite all right. But this is the wrong motion. So you have to see what industries they should go in, how they should go in, what direct benefit it will bring and what indirect benefit it should be able to bring in for that particular. I think the classic examples are all over the world, where a certain industry is not permitted in their own country, that industry will come into another country. And then you can pollute because you say it is foreign direct investment that is to come. I think the countries are waking up, but very often it is not the country's fault. It is the local partner who goes into with the MNC as a partner, and they muddle up the whole thing for their own benefit, and then they can also manipulate some of the government people and so on. So a lot of bad things do come. So let me once again thank you, all of you, for your patient listening and then asking the various questions. It has been my pleasure. Before I actually take my seat, I want to give a small token of my visit here and appreciation to Dean Professor Dr. Mohamed. Photograph. This is not CSR. It's economics. Some good investments that are pouring into some parts of the world.
Thank you very much, Datuk Sri, and also for that souvenir. I'm sure it's going to take its rightful place in the OYA gallery. I hope the Dean is going to read it very quickly and let us display it in the OYA gallery. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier on in my welcome address, I did not recognize a few people in this audience. Let me do so now. Thank you to the officers from the State District Office and also from the State Religious Department. Thank you very much for coming. And let me also inform everybody here, even though our Sri Lankan friends are going back, our next BizTalk, or BizTalk 5, is on the 13th of May. The topic is How to Be an Entrepreneur, The Pathway to Success. And it's being delivered by the CEO of a French-based company in Malaysia, very, very successful CEO. So I hope that those of you who can avail the time on the 13th of May will be able to join us for the BizTalk, same time, same place. Okay, before I end the session this afternoon, can I call upon the Dean, Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail, to show our appreciation to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri by presenting a souvenir.
Very quick.
Thank you, Bro. And once again, Dr. Sri, thank you so much for taking time off your schedule to be with us this morning and this afternoon. It's truly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And please help yourself to some biscuits and sweets and water on your way out. And to my Sri Lankan friends, enjoy the rest of your program. And I'll see you sometime either here or in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much and bye.
So this is work getting all day.
Diana.
Long time ago.
Now you're joining us.
Just yes, first of April.
So you're doing very staying here.
No, rent. Can't get any decent house. I went to see a few. That area is quite new houses.
So welcome.
How long you been here?
I've been here about 4 years now.
So you left?
No, I left earlier. Eventually.
Alright. Yeah. Left PM long time ago. Very long time. Yes, I recall when I was there. I was there.
On my bag?
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Keep the flag flying here.
Your community is
let's show from here. It started with 27, now only 17 left. Minor problems. I don't know how to make business background from law. Last time I'm from your MBA, but I did my law. So MBA is something new. So you're teaching here. Teaching me this subject. Okay, next. Next, okay, sir.
So we should catch up.
Usually mana usually
Tepat, okay.
ada one standard one for education and semua.
This was a program suppose and since you can you please sorry they go
How much do you charge for this? I think what we can do is
Can you call that girl? That yes. No. Yeah, Tini.
Pakistan, is it?
He is the one who is going to them.
Oh, okay. You're full time here.
Yeah, he is a student here and also he is a assistant.
Okay.
Dia nak minta kad, jadi bila dia bagi beneficiary dia boleh keluar.
Pass this to and see whether we pay.
Because you want to pay for
Yeah.
you can call
Bundle it into one. So for easy carrying. And then you put it out here. You put it into
So
maybe we'll be expected to in the future. You should be into the executive level. This way, so definitely we will be third body. It will be being in the Malaysia is however it is. Definitely, I will respect your cooperation. For some way, definitely we will be to do that, deliver the MBA student, strategic management.
We try that. System is all good on latest.
I will send the all information early. So because you can be either by